Hola, amigos, and welcome to Spain Impossible. I am your host, Jim, and today we are going to be talking about a new term that I coined called enjoyable survival. And I'm going to tell you all about it. So stick with me and learn about enjoyable survival. So, um, I am on a journey to move to Spain. I'm already well on my way with the weight loss portion of it. I gave myself a year to lose 100 pounds. I'm already down 80 and it's just over 6 months. So I'm going to continue that journey. If you want to know more about that, hop over to the Fat Loss After 50 podcast. I explain it all and it's all for free. You don't even need to put in an email address. So with that said, I have had some people that have bought me some coffee and I've been doing shout outs for them. And the latest one is Josh. Josh, thank you for buying me some coffee and coming along for this journey. So if you want to hear your name shouted out, hop over and buy me a coffee or 3 or 5 or 10, whatever. Help me keep this free because I have spent so much money in my life with diet gurus and everything else that I want to make this for free because I finally stumbled across something that has helped me lose weight and that has changed my life. So let's get into what we're going to talk about today, which is not on the weight loss topic. Well, maybe a little bit on the weight loss topic because it does have a little bit to do with that. But it has to do with what is enjoyable survival. So as a younger man, raising 6 children and always struggling and scrapping for money and trying to figure this out and figure that out, as well as having an entrepreneurial mind. I've owned several businesses throughout my life, and none of them have been fantastic successes. So I'm not a millionaire. I don't have, all kinds of money laying around and things like that. But at the times, they did serve and they did provide an honest living for, raising kids and stuff like that. Um, but of course, when I was a younger man, I thought I wanted, hundreds of millions of dollars and Porsches and Lamborghinis and, a 20,000 square foot house and, college, being able to send my kids to college on my dime, just doling out the money. And those were the things that seemed important. And now I'm 53. I am looking at retirement at some point in time over the next 10 years or so. My initial plan is to retire at 62 and just pull Social Security then. I have been heavy my whole life, so I don't want to put off collecting what little Social Security I do have until 67. That's all there is to it. And I will find a way to earn a little bit of money in order to fill that gap. There is a way that at 62 you can continue to work up to your full retirement age. It's just a limited amount of work. So that's brought me to enjoyable survival. So I no longer have the time, the resources, the energy to try and build some sort of multi-million-dollar company. And I realize that, and that's okay. I'm no longer of the mind that I want a 20,000 square foot house and a Porsche and a Lamborghini. As a matter of fact, when I move to Spain, I don't plan on having a car. I've given some thought to having a camper so I can move around, but it's kind of still in the thought process, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I think more than likely I will live close to the trains and take the trains because you can get all over Europe on trains. And um, that leads to the enjoyable part of the survival. But what I'm looking at and why I coined the term or why I've come down to this is that I realize that money isn't important. What's important is following a passion of mine that I've had my entire life. And what is that passion? That passion is medieval architecture. I absolutely go bonkers at some of the cathedrals and even just government buildings and castles and palaces and things. And I have spent aside from, cruising in the Caribbean and stuff, I've spent my entire life in the United States. So the only way I've been able to see these things is in pictures. And at one point in time when I was younger, I thought I was actually going to pursue a degree like in medieval history or something like that. And then got married, had kids, everything got in the way, and I never pursued that. So when I'm thinking about what I want to do now that I'm older, what's really important to me is physically seeing these buildings and these different places, and where are those buildings that interest me, because there's medieval time period buildings in Asia, in India, in Nepal, in Africa, in South America. The stuff that really tweaks my interest is in Europe. It's from the medieval period. One of the reasons why I like went gaga over the possibility of moving to Peninsula is that castle that was built in the 13th and 14th centuries that's in such good repair, and you can tour on a daily basis. And for me, that geeks me out. I'm just like, whoa, cool. I could just go sit and enjoy and imagine living there, being there on a daily basis. So being near the train lines, which Peninsula is, would provide me the opportunity, as well as being centrally located near Valencia, which has a major airport there in Europe, and I could fly to wherever. I can go to Krakow and Budapest and Prague and places in France that I can't think of right now, and see these chateaus and palaces and cathedrals and all of these things all over Europe. So if that is the enjoyable part of life for me, how do we survive? What does that look like? Does that look like a 20,000 square foot home and a Porsche and a Lamborghini? Absolutely not. What does it look like? A one, maybe two bedroom apartment. I would like to be close to the beach, but in reality, if the costs and things aren't there, a couple kilometers inland. I'm walking and walking and walking. So, if I got to walk a couple kilometers to go down to the promenade, get there, sit down, relax, have a beer maybe, which I'm not currently drinking because I'm on the Blueprint. But at some point in time, the occasional beer, especially on a hot day, would be wonderful. Um, and then continue to walk the promenade and the shops and things like that. Sit down, have some lunch, and then go on back home. So what it comes down to is, what is it that I'm really passionate about that I look back and I go, I should have pursued this. And I have a completely separate channel, and I do some fantasy art and stuff like that. And I just, but these buildings that I'm in awe of, this architecture that I'm in awe of, is the stuff that I want to do in this last portion of my lifetime. And so I have to plan out and figure out a way to make that a reality. And how do I make that? And that's part of the health journey, right? I mean, I want to survive long enough to see a lot of these places. And I also want to be in good enough condition in terms of, walking up hills and steps and stairs and all the things that's required in order to see these things. So that's where enjoyable survival comes from, because you want to enjoy your life. You don't just want to, well, maybe you do just want to sit and be and but you got to survive. You got to have a roof over your head. You got to have food and water and good air to breathe, and all of those things. So what it comes down to is paring down life. What is it that you absolutely have to have? And what does that dollar amount look like in order for you to pursue this passion, whatever it may be? For me, it's just being able to buy a train ticket or maybe occasional plane ticket and spend a few days in a European city so that I can see some of these buildings myself. And, at some point in time on this channel, that's what I'm going to be sharing. It may not be a travel guide to this particular city, but it's like, hey, I hopped a train. I'm spending the weekend here. Let me show you what I think is cool. What tweaks me inside and makes me geek out. Um, and I hope you guys come along for that. I really do. I just, it's when you reach a certain point in life, and that may be a different time for different people. I have known people in their 20s and 30s that maybe don't have any intentions of having a family or kids or any of those things, and they are pursuing what they're passionate about. And to look back, if I had not had children, my life would be a lot different. Anybody who's a parent can relate to that. Um, but I would have pursued this passion in a much different way. And I probably would be, some professor at a college, talking about medieval architecture. So, but it's never too late. I don't want to go to school and become that. I don't need to go get a degree. What I need to do is figure out how to survive and enjoy the things that I think are beautiful in life. And that is medieval architecture. And where is that architecture? It's in Europe. And it's too difficult to get to Europe from the United States to do this on a regular basis. It's far too expensive. So moving to Spain, where I have access to the trains and low cost airlines, where I can move about and rent a room for a weekend or maybe during the middle of the week so that it's not quite as busy, um, and go and see these cities and these wonderful, amazing buildings that were created, and I'm just in awe of, because I can't for the life of me consider what it would have taken in the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th century, and sometimes even earlier, to cut the stone and create this relief on the stone, and the things that I geek out about. So what I want to encourage you to do is find what you geek out about. What is it that you geek out about? What is it that is like, before I die, I want to spend time with or doing? And then, depending on your financial situation, what does that survival look like? Like, how, you know, can you earn or have just enough to provide you to do that? And what does that look like? Now, you may be different than me. You may have a great pension. You may have, big social security checks coming because you've earned a lot of money. You may have, huge 401k savings. You may have a $1 million house that you're going to sell, put that money in the bank because it's paid for. But I'm talking to people that are like me, people that have spent their entire lives scraping, rubbing two pennies together to make a quarter so that they can raise their children and provide a home for them, and do what they have to do because they don't have jobs and incomes like that. Those are the people that I'm really talking to. But even people that have money, what is it that you really, really want to enjoy as you get older? What is it that you feel you've missed out on? And that's why I'm talking about enjoyable survival. I need to survive. I need a roof over my head. I need water. I need food. I need a small amount of money to be able to travel to these places. But that's what really geeks me out. Traveling to these locations and seeing these buildings in person. So and having the time to look them over. And obviously I can't fly, so I can't get up real high, but I can use a camera with a zoom lens on it. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. As always, buy me a coffee. You want to get shouted out on one of my videos or one of my shorts? That's the way to do it. Help me keep this free, mostly for the weight loss, because I know the weight loss has changed my life and it can change others as well. So buy me a coffee. Remember, as always, subscribe. Give me the old thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that this old fart might have something good to share with other people. And I will see you guys on the next one. Remember to come along for this journey, because man, oh man, it is going to be one hell of a journey. Hasta luego.